This is the Rich Report, bringing you the richest content across entertainment. It's a late night here on the West Coast after day one of the NFL draft, after the 5.5 hour marathon that the first round of the draft brings because of all the tension. And it took 25 minutes to get that first pick in because we need to have a national anthem for some reason from Harry Connick Jr. But other than that, I mean, for all the work that needed to be put in just to make this happen, it went pretty smoothly. There was some you could hear in the background whenever Roger Goodell could make a pick that you could hear the guy like counting down like 5, 4. You could hear that, but that was really the only thing that made it feel like something different. Johnny Crane joining me for this day one NFL draft reaction. Johnny, how are you doing tonight?
It's a great evening. We actually had a pretty long sports event. I know the WNBA draft happened several days ago. All credit to that. However, the NFL draft is its own animal, and in a time like this, we can take as many sports as we can get. So this was a great thing to watch, despite the digital part and all that. It was still fun.
Yeah, and like I said, it took 25 minutes to state the obvious that Joe Burrow was bound for Cincinnati, and he seemed excited. I'm just assuming he was excited, but I think he's always got that game face on when he's ready to go. He doesn't like just participation trophies, really. I mean, I don't think he sees a quarterback like Joe Burrow, who's already won a Heisman and national title. I don't think he looks at the first pick as him sort of winning in a way. He sees it's an achievement for him, but at the same time, it's not a national championship. It's not a Heisman, but still, overall, it's a achievement you can carry on for the rest of your life and into your career. But yeah,
Right. I mean,
as the LSU fan, how does that make you feel seeing a guy that really not the mainstream, the casual football fan would have known going into this season, but seeing how he just exploded onto the scene the way he did in the fall, and then now being the number one pick? Would you last fall have said, yeah, Joe Burrow was going to be the number one pick in this year's NFL draft?
Cameron, if you told me that last fall an LSU quarterback would go number one overall, I'd be like, let me have what you're having, good sir. Where's that alcohol? Where'd the alcohol come from?
And we all know the
Because
last time an LSU quarterback was taken number one in the NFL draft.
how'd that go for you, Cameron?
I don't know. He weighed about 320 pounds when he was coming onto the team. So,
Right. I mean, when you look at Burrow from last year to the year he just completed, last year he was pretty much just a quarterback. He wasn't terrible, but he definitely wasn't great. He was just a guy, a fourth round kind of guy, fifth round, sixth round, maybe even undrafted. He didn't really bring an explosive skill set to the table. But all that changed this past year when he had Joe Brady that unlocked his capabilities, made him really mobile and very accurate. When you look at his throwing to the receivers, the ball just floats into the hands of the receivers, no matter the coverage and double or whatever. And that accuracy combined with the mobility and just the pure pocket presence really, really, really improved in his last year at LSU. And I think that was the big thing of why Cincinnati wanted him, because those abilities and those traits really play well, not only in that division with those big defenses, but also that weather that they might have to deal with. Sure, his arm strength isn't elite. It's not Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes is his own thing. The arm strength is still really, really good. And I think that when you combine all the abilities together, he's a well rounded player. He knows he always has that game face on, like you say. He's not a big partier. He just always wants to compete. I saw on Twitter when the draft stuff was going on, the Cincinnati Bengals or NFL posted saying Burrow was taken number one overall. And you know what Burrow said? Time to
but
get to work. No more noise. Time to get to work. That's the mentality that brings a franchise back into relevancy, and that's a type of player that can take a franchise into its next step, and that's what Cincinnati's looking for.
yeah, and I think when you're throwing a new head coach with a quarterback that pretty much knew what the Bengals used to do under Marvin Lewis, is pretty much the same old story every year, and they'd always wind up in the playoffs. But then Andy Dalton was sort of in this new range of, oh wow, we're actually tanking. I mean, nobody expected the Bengals to be as bad as they were. Although I did call that, saying the Bengals would go 1-15 because they really had nothing on their roster. no defense. I didn't think Andy Dalton was all that great to ever begin with, and they went 2-14 and under a new coach that's very young and Zach Taylor. There's just nothing to go off of. But now getting Joe Burrow, they can totally rewrite how Cincinnati Bengals do business, and I think we'll see. It's not going to be a huge leap in performance next year, but you will see that hey, there's something there for the Cincinnati Bengals with Burrow. Yeah, moving on. Top three were, as a lot of us predicted, Joe Burrow, Chase Young going to the Redskins, and then Jeff Okudah going to the Lions. Then we sort of start getting off script with the Giants going and getting help for Daniel Jones and Andrew Thomas from Georgia. I think that was the first where we were like, okay, it's a game now. So, Johnny, what was your reaction to the Giants taking Andrew Thomas when I think most of us had Isaiah Simmons going to the Giants?
When you look at the Giants pick, and really from pick 1 until about 8, where the Cardinals picked, usually in the draft, you either pick based off of 2 things. You can either pick based off of need, or you can pick based off of best player available. And I believe picks 1 through 7, from the Bengals all the way to the Panthers, they picked based on need. And really, when you look at the Giants GM over the past several years, he's sort of hinted what he's going to go at in the draft. And it's been pretty accurate. Last year, he said, "Oh, we're going to get a quarterback." And what they do? They shocked the world. They got Daniel Jones. What did he say this year? "Oh, we need a tackle to protect Daniel Jones." And look what they did. They got a tackle. The Giants needed offensive line help pretty much. They really need to protect the quarterback. And really, their pick is pretty much the epitome of the first 7 picks to me. I think that all those 7 teams, whether you look at the Lions needing to replace Darius Slay, the Bengals for Burrow for obvious reasons, Washington Redskins wanting to reinforce that front 7, I really think that they picked based off of pure need as opposed to best player available.
Yeah, absolutely. And going into the quarterback, probably the biggest controversy we've had, the biggest discussion of quarterbacks was Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert, depending on who was better. Everybody had. I mean, this is a pretty divided debate here. With Tua with his injury history, Justin Herbert with some accuracy questions. To me, look, I love Tua. I don't hate the guy. The guy's a great football player, but when I look at that injury history, the ankle injury from 2018, and then less than a year ago, his hip practically exploded. It's not a guy that I see value with in the first round. And it's not just that; it's also that winning mentality as well. When the going got tough in 2018 in the SEC title game and the national title game, he bowed out. I mean, Alabama had to go to Jalen Hurts to get them to the national title game. Yes, Tua came in the Oklahoma game, but I mean, it's Oklahoma. They're practically a B tier fill in for all these playoffs. They have not gotten out of the first round in any year that they've been in the playoffs. And it was still close. I forgot from that time that it was only an 11-point game. I think it was a blowout early on, and Oklahoma sort of crawled away back in to make it look closer than we thought. But still, only an 11-point win, and your defense allowed 34 points. I mean, that's take it for what you want. But then you see in the national title game against Clemson that year, AJ Terrell with his pick 6, and then it was sort of just Tua just sort of shut it down there. So I have not only injury concerns, but also where's the mentality at when the going will get tough? Because it will get tough at times in his career. So, and how will he respond to that? I don't know.
And really, it's not only a mentality thing. It's something that you've said a lot to me since we've had this Tua conversation for pretty much months now. It's almost a philosophy thing as well, because like you said, Tua Tagovailoa was really a downfield thrower. He wasn't really a Duncan throw kind of guy. He was wanting to explode down the field, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. And I don't know if that's so much a philosophy that Nick Saban has wanted to run at Alabama, or if it's a personal philosophy that Tua wanted to do. So that'll be very interesting, especially with the Dolphins and what their offense is wanting to look like. But to me, I think the bigger thing, even though he's had championship issues, yes, of course that's there, but the talent is there. But the talent can't be on the field if you're not on the field. And if you're not on the field because of all these injuries he's had, it's very, very, very risky. And I'd be really interested to see if Miami made the same pick if they only had one first round pick. Because if they only had one first round pick, with the risk is only emphasized even more. You know, I feel as if they only had one pick, they would have gone with the safer route in Herbert. However, they had three picks. They sort of have a little room to wiggle in. So it'll be very interesting. I saw a tweet on Twitter, and it pretty much summed up Tua in regard to health. You can't coach health. So is he going to be healthy where you're facing bigger guys in a more physical sport in the biggest arena of NFL football in the world? We'll see next year, I suppose.
Yeah. Another topic I want to hit on. Not a guy that I was really a guy that I had questions about, but he may have found the absolute perfect fit in Dallas with a bunch of young offensive weapons. CeeDee Lamb going to the Cowboys, teaming up with Dak Prescott, pairing with Amari Cooper. What you throw in uh
Blake
yeah,
Jarwin on tight end.
yeah, you got another there's another wide receiver too, but he rolled off. Gallup, Michael Gallup as well. You already have Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. Dallas's offense on paper looks good. Now with Mike McCarthy coming in as head coach, no longer have Jason Garrett bogging down Dak Prescott and what he can do. Do you think Dallas's offense compared to last year will just open up completely and we'll see a totally different, more prolific offense than what we saw with the Cowboys last year?
Well, even with the Cowboys struggling last year against over 500 teams, their offense was still pretty solid, all considered. And that was with Jason Garrett running the offense. A vanilla coach. Nothing against Jason Garrett. He was able to bring the Cowboys back into relevancy, but he wasn't able to take the next step. And I think with Mike McCarthy coming in, combined with Kellen Moore staying an offensive coordinator, they doubled down on a strength. And like I mentioned at the start of the video, the first 7 picks, you saw teams picking based off of need. What Dallas did is they picked based off of best player available. No one expected CeeDee Lamb to fall that far. If CeeDee Lamb was taken much higher, they probably would have taken Xavier McKinney, safety, a defensive back, someone of that nature. But they didn't because Lamb fell into their laps. They doubled down on a big strength. They just re-signed Amari Cooper to a 5-year, $100 million deal. You got CeeDee Lamb now, you got Michael Gallup, and you got Blake Jarwin. And Dak Prescott, despite people saying that he's overrated, he's still a good quarterback. And last year, what he did improve on to me, in my eyes, is that he was able to throw it down the field a little bit more. And what is CeeDee Lamb's game? Going down the field, because that's Oklahoma's offense. So I really think that this is a nice fit. You can sort of move a Cooper and Lamb back and forth between the outside and the slot. And I think there's a lot of nice options that Dallas can go with here on offense.
Yeah, and then there's my Las Vegas Raiders. They said Oakland Raiders on ESPN today while I was watching. I was like, yes, Oakland. The Oakland Raiders still live on. But
Hmm.
interesting day for Mayock and Gruden. I think getting Henry Ruggs, I think was smarter than going for CeeDee Lamb. It would have been better if they would have taken Jerry Judy there, but Henry Ruggs, I think, you could sort of say they're equivalent. I think Judy was the bigger name, but Henry Ruggs being that too for Alabama, he was just as good, just as explosive as Judy was. So I don't think there's a problem there. And now there's could be questions with their DB they took and whether or not it was too high. And Damon Arnett, he was the 2 to Jeff Okuda, and he only gave up one touchdown, and he would have been challenged more because no one wanted to throw in Okuda's range. So Johnny, how would you rate the Raiders' 2 picks?
They're really nice picks. I mean, when you look at Alabama's offense, it was Jerry Judy. The offense at wide receiver was built around Jerry Judy, and the fact that Ruggs was still able to really produce there really showed wonders at the offense and at Ruggs' ability. But what is not really talked about is that while Jerry Judy might have the more traditional physique of a wide receiver, tall, lengthy, etc., Ruggs was actually faster than Judy. He's probably the fastest wide receiver in the draft. And if Gruden wants to run a fast-paced, aggressive offense that he ran way back in the day, then there's your perfect guy right there. I think that's a really good fit. And even if Damon Arnett might be a little bit of a stretch, I don't really think it is. I still think it's a really nice fit because it satisfies a need. Oakland satisfied their need in getting a defensive back, and they have plenty of opportunity to get more defensive backs later in the draft should Arnett not turn out well. Getting the depth and getting at least one defensive back that is proven on the other DBU, not the DBU, okay, the other DBU. I think it's a good pick. I think that, like you said, he was sort of overlooked, kind of like how Ruggs was with Judy. So, I mean, nice pieces to work around with for Las Vegas, not Oakland. Sorry.
Yeah, I think names the Raiders could look at, and I think Jonathan Abram can attest to this. Is cornerback Cameron Dantzler from Mississippi State as well, or a safety like a Terrell Burgess from Utah. So I don't think Ashton Davis will
Mhm.
be around for the third round. I think he might go to a team that really needs a safety because I think Ashton Davis is really good, and Cal's defense showed out the last 2 years. Shockingly, like, you never put Cal and defense in the same conversation, but the last 2 years they've sort of shown up a little bit. And that's thanks to Evan Weaver and Ashton Davis being a huge role in that. So I think there's as long as those guys are around in the third round with the Raiders 3 picks, there's definitely something there for Oakland for Las Vegas to take. And I think the biggest talking point from this draft that's going to be talked about for days on end, and whether or not Green Bay even likes their franchise quarterback anymore, is Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love, drafted by Green Bay. I didn't see Jordan Love going to Green Bay. I don't think many people saw Jordan Love falling to Green Bay. But here we are. And now Green Bay once again trying to get an understudy for Rodgers. They tried this with Brett Hundley, didn't work out, and now they're doing a guy that's sort of similar tendencies to Brett Hundley. They're not the same quarterback. Love has a way better arm, but Johnny, this pick shocked me. I thought they were going to go get a guy like Cole Kmet from Notre Dame to fill a tight end need when they have 70-year-old Mercedes Lewis in there right now. Could have gotten some help on defense because the defense still wasn't all that great last year. But why Jordan Love?
What I'm interested in hearing, and maybe more news like this will come out later and more reports will come out. I was wondering if the Packers sort of were a little knee jerk here, and maybe if they heard rumblings that maybe the Patriots, who traded out of the first round to get a second and third round pick from the Chargers, were trying to trade back in to get Love. And I'm wondering if Green Bay, they need a quarterback for the future, obviously. Aaron Rodgers is on 35 plus years old. They're going to need a quarterback soon. And maybe they might have heard rumblings that a team like the Patriots or maybe another team that was wanting to trade back in to get a quarterback. And maybe Green Bay tried to block them a little bit and get that quarterback before they could. But I know you don't really like the pick. I kind of like it. I know Hundley and Love. I can see similarities. I can see what you're saying. I think Love has a better arm, and I think his downfield throwing is a lot better than Hundley's was in college. What you can maybe do is sort of do what Kansas City did with Patrick Mahomes. Let him sit for a year, maybe let him sit for 2 years. If Love needs that seasoning, give it to him. What Love's arm is a poor man's Patrick Mahomes, but the arm strength is definitely there. And who better to, you know, to teach against than with Aaron Rodgers? Okay. Aaron Rodgers is a surefire Hall of Famer soon. Him teaching Love all the tricks, nicks, and crannies in the NFL, it could work. Sure, they might have needed another weapon. Maybe they needed a tight end. Maybe they needed defense. However, I think they're looking long term here. And I think that they sort of realize that Aaron Rodgers, is probably on his last leg in his career. And that's not a slight against Rodgers. That's just looking at the facts and Rodgers looking in the mirror. He's 36, 37. It's gonna be over soon, but you need to have a guy ready to step in.
Yeah, and everybody's talked about Green Bay. Oh, there's issues between Rodgers and Matt LaFleur. That was everybody's call from the beginning of the year. Green Bay hasn't been always on Rodgers' good side, and who knows how Aaron will take this news because the guy doesn't want to quit. He doesn't want to be, oh, now I got to build up another guy. He's just not that quarterback. He's like, let's win now. Let's get a Super Bowl now. I mean, the guy only has one for a Hall of Fame career, and down the line, I don't think when we go back and look at his career, I don't see it aging well for future generations that go and compare Rodgers to the quarterbacks of now, like a Tom Brady. So yeah, so we'll close out this show, Johnny. Who are your winners and losers from day one?
All right, I'll start with winners. I'll give you three winners and I'll give you three losers. Starting with the winners, the Arizona Cardinals. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and I keep on saying it, the first seven teams picked based off of need. But what did the Cardinals do? Going into the draft, the Cardinals needed one big thing, and that was a big time tackle to make more screens for Kyler Murray in that offense to clink a little bit more. However, who fell into their lap? Arguably the best defensive player and the most versatile defensive player in the draft in Isaiah Simmons. He can play anywhere on defense. Okay. And when you combine him with Jordan Hicks and Buda Baker, who, by the way, combined for over 100 combined tackles last year each, you can work with that, and you can move Simmons around depending on health concerns that come up with them, or you can slot him next to them. You can move him around. He's a Swiss Army knife on defense, and I think that the Cardinals could have taken a tackle here, but they went with the best player available. So that's why I think they're one of the winners. The second winner I have is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Similar to the Cardinals, they needed a tackle, and luckily for them, Tristan Wirfs fell in their lap. And what does that give Tampa Bay? Well, it gives protection to their 42 going on 43-year-old quarterback by the name of Tom Brady. That offense is going to be a lot better now. And if they get a running back in the second round tomorrow, more hole opportunities. And for my final pick for the winner, I'm going to go with the Chargers. They got their quarterback of the future, and they got a big time linebacker when they traded back into the first round. Sure, they gave a second and third round pick away. However, that team is built to win now. And if you want to win now, especially against the Chiefs, especially with the Raiders improving, especially with the Broncos getting a nice weapon today, you got to keep up. And sometimes sacrifices have to be made. So those are the winners. Would you like the losers as well, or do you want to do the winners?
I can do my winners now.
Okay.
The Minnesota Vikings, they filled needs that they really needed. I like Justin Jefferson a lot. I think he can do it all. You know,
Mhm.
I love Ruggs, Judy, and Lamb, but there's always something that's missing from them. Maybe it's sort of it's always I'm a more of a mentality guy, so maybe that's just me. But Justin Jefferson can do it all. I mean, 4 touchdowns in a single it was a single half, right?
Correct.
Against
Against Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, yeah.
Hmm.
4 touchdowns, 200 yards. The guy is fast, and he's going to catch just about every ball that's thrown to him. So there's no losing there. And they feel a need getting Jeff Gladney from TCU, who, while still, it's a TCU, it's a Big 12 defense. It does bring down the age a little bit for Minnesota's defense, who's not getting any younger, and they're going to start needing the next generation of Vikings defenders. Because while they were great, it's not going to click the same as the years go on. Another winner I have is the Cowboys. I really like CeeDee Lamb giving the Cowboys more depth at receiver, gives Dak more opportunities to sort of. I think I would love to see Dak run the ball more if that happens. I think Jason Garrett took that away a little bit, but
Hmm.
now you get 2 explosive wide receivers. You have a solid tight end, and you arguably have the best running back in all of the NFL. I think it'll open up for Dak to not only just throw the ball, but I think he's going to run the ball a whole lot more than what he's had. And I think that's been the one piece that's been missing that we saw earlier in like the first season with Dak when they got to the playoffs. Unfortunately, lost to Green Bay, sadly. But yeah, I think when we see Dak open it up and he can do not only throw the ball well, but also run the ball as well. Like a Russell Wilson, I think Dallas can be better than where they were last year. Another one I have is the Cardinals. Yeah, they got the best player in the draft that was available to them, and arguably the best defender in this draft. And that now gives a guy they can build around for future. And they got their guy in Kyler on offense. Now they have their guy on defense, so they can build around. So the Arizona going in the right direction. My final winner, Denver Broncos, having Jerry Judy fall right to them. Drew Lock has not only Cortland Sutton now, but now has another young guy in Jerry Judy, who might be the best overall wide receiver in this draft. So a young offense. Now Denver's got to work on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, and so Johnny, we'll go to you. Who are your 3 losers of this draft?
I'll go from the least loser to the most loser. The New Orleans Saints. Yes, I get it. They want to get younger on the interior. Drew Brees' offense, especially with his age, all the offense revolves around making sure you get holes and protection in the interior. It starts with the center. Cesar Ruiz was a nice pick. However, I thought there were bigger needs at linebacker and maybe even the secondary. Patrick Queen, he went to LSU. Perfect fit, I think. However, they went with Ruiz. I thought they could have done a little bit better there.
Yeah,
The Miami,
I'll just go off and say that was one of my losers as well. There were just other needs out there, whether it been at wide receiver. I thought they could have gotten a guy like a T. Higgins to go along with Michael Thomas, a linebacker as well, to hone down that defense. And Patrick Queen, a guy who loves hitting dudes. They just don't have that right now, and I think they lost a little bit. So now they got to wait a little bit in the
Mhm.
second round to get that guy, and I think it was a missed opportunity because centers come and go. I don't think Eric McCoy was awful to deserve to have a battle, but I guess it's to build that mental edge, I guess, against Cesar Ruiz. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely big missed opportunity for New Orleans.
For the next loser, I have the Dolphins. I get it. They have a bunch of picks, so they have a little room. If there's some error, they can sort of weather the storm a little bit. However, the issue with Tua, that draft pick, I understand. Even though the injury issues are a thing, I get it. Okay. The problem I have is with their final pick, I believe, when they got Noah Igbenogany. If they want a defensive back, remember, they just spent 90 plus million on a defensive back this past offseason in Byron Jones. And no offense to Igbenogany, I thought that he's pretty much of a depth piece at this point, and that's really nothing against his talent. I just think he's blocked right now. There's really nowhere for him to play. Now, I'm sure they can find a way to play him. However, I thought on offense they could have used a running back or maybe even a receiver to make sure you have the offense nice and clicking and ready to go when Tua comes into the fold next season. I thought they could have probably done that if they wanted to get a defensive back. This draft class is pretty deep in defensive back, so I thought you could have probably had a lottery ticket defensive back later in the draft. And then for my final loser, it's the San Francisco 49ers. And that's nothing against their pick against Brandon Ayuk. I thought that's a really nice scheming fit for them. They can put him anywhere around George Kittle. But when you look at what they got in Javon Kinlaw, a good player, but to me, I saw it as a lateral move to what they lost in the offseason. And if you have a top 15 pick, I really don't think you should be looking at making lateral moves. I think you should really be making explosive moves. And even with not getting Kinlaw, I thought their defense would have been okay. But when you look at the trades they made today, with all the trades they made, they don't have a second round pick anymore. They don't have a third round pick anymore, and they don't have a fourth round pick anymore. So they're really assuming that the players they got in this draft are going to be healthy, and they're really assuming that their roster they have right now is going to stay healthy as well because the depth isn't there anymore in the draft for them.
Yeah, I agree. And the Dolphins were one of my losers as well, strictly because of Tua. I think if you're gonna have a quarterback go in the top five, maybe even top 10, I can't, he has to be my starter. I can't bank on a guy who's just coming off an exploded hip, pretty much. That's practically what that injury was. And say, yeah, let's take him fifth. We're okay with that. I don't like it. I think if anything, you could have traded maybe in the next year or so for a quarterback. I think they missed out on a Teddy Bridgewater type of quarterback, and so they settled with Tua. I think Herbert would have been a better fit. There's just a lot of questions. There's too many questions than certainties I have with Tua. I just don't like the pick. Cornerback was a little bit interesting, but I think they have an early enough pick in the second round to where they can find that running back to replace Kalen Balaj. So I think that's what they're banking on, but it's definitely a risk because we could easily see Swift, Dobbins, and Taylor all go back to back to back early on in that draft, and Miami misses out on getting a key running back and a key piece that they need for that offense. And my final loser are the Green Bay Packers. I just don't know what that's going to do chemistry wise to Green Bay and how Aaron Rodgers is going to react to that. That'll do it for this edition of the Rich Report. Johnny, you want to come back on for the next 2 days and react to the next 5 rounds of the draft?
Depending on the time, sure, I'd be down.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the Rich Report. I believe yours will be in the
At
description
John
bar.
Crane Sports. There you go.
At John Crane Sports.
I wanted to put
Thanks.
the B in there, but there's no spaces.
At John Crane Sports, at the Rich Report. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next video.